Bom dia.
Olá, eu acho que o Robin estava aí para entrar também, que ele disse-me que já estava.
Apareceu agora, sim.
Então deixa só entrar para falarmos um bocadinho os três.
Está aqui mais um grupo grande. Já estamos em gravação.
Ok. Robin.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, good morning.
Welcome.
Pleasure to meet you again, Paulo and Rita, first time. It's lovely.
Thanks a lot for joining us in this meeting.
No problem at all. No problem at all. I know that after the last time I did this when Paulo was in the meeting, he just wanted to be the person playing with CARMACAL and deciding where he's going for a holiday for the weekend.
Let's see. Let's see. Rita, can you please give me the sharing?
Yes. Let's go.
I'm just going to try before we allow everyone in to share your presentation. And okay, can you see it in full mode now? Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so Robin, you just tell me when to change slide, and
Okay.
I'll do it. Okay.
And you've got your Travel Life account open in the background so that you can go into CARMACAL.
Yes, I do have. I have my Travel Life here. Now let's try it as well. Okay, suppliers, CARMACAL. Okay, where do I go? I go to the new CARMACAL, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I can create a new product. Is that
I can't see what you're doing because you're still on. You still have the PowerPoint on full screen.
Okay, now and now.
No, now you've stopped sharing the screen.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
So I can create a new product, and then I start filling. You have to teach me.
That's okay. We'll do it. We'll do it together. We'll do it together with everybody.
Okay, so let's give
Let's start.
Hold on. What time is it?
It's the time.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'll allow people in, but let's give them some 5 minutes or 10, maximum 10.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Paulo,
me.
tens que sair de anfitrião. Recuperar anfitrião. Ok. Vou começar a dar entrada.
Please. And I guess, Robin, that Rita will have to speak a bit in Portuguese before you.
No problem.
I can assure you, if she says anything nasty, I'll let you know. Oh my goodness, Catarina Cibrone is here.
Bom dia, bom dia.
Bom dia.
Bem-vindos.
Obrigado. Bom dia.
Olá. Rita, tenho aqui a Paula a perguntar se estás a gravar isto, que é porque ela não consegue assistir.
Sim. Tal como da primeira vez, toda esta nossa reunião vai ser gravada e é disponibilizada por e-mail ou por e-transfer. Basta depois enviarem um e-mail aqui para o info@forumdasustentabilidade.pt e depois terei muito gosto em enviar a gravação.
Ok, já estamos.
Bom dia.
Bom dia. Só aqui. E...
Bom dia.
Bom dia. Só aqui admitir as entradas.
Bom dia.
Bom dia. Aqui um grupo super pontual, é fantástico. Estava só aqui a dar mais um compasso de espera e estamos prestes também aqui a iniciar.
Mais que pontual, Rita. Nós até viemos 30 minutos antes.
Muito, sim. Batemos todos os recordes, o que é bom sinal. Fico muito satisfeita. Portanto, é mesmo maravilhoso trabalhar assim, porque é...
Robin, as you see, Portuguese are fairly punctual.
Yeah.
Estamos mal habituados, porque foi aquilo que eu já fiz por 2 vezes através dele. Agora fica um trabalho mais. Quando fui primeiro.
Muito bem, parece-me que podemos avançar aqui com a nossa conversa, que se pretende que seja sempre aqui mais do que um encontro formal, pretende-se que efetivamente este espaço seja um espaço profundamente informal e que seja aqui um espaço de partilha, de troca de experiências, que seja também um momento para ouvirmos e conhecermos também pessoas que estão já há muitos anos habituadas a trabalhar e, portanto, têm já experiência nos temas que estamos a abordar, mas que seja também, portanto, um espaço informal de conhecimento e também de troca de partilhas e de questões. À semelhança do que aconteceu na semana passada com o nosso tema dedicado, portanto, à questão do alojamento sob a perspectiva das agências de viagem, também o nosso tema desta semana nos traz uma questão que é particularmente importante e que também faz parte também aqui também das questões que nos são levantadas em todo o processo da certificação da Sustur e, portanto, no fundo é aproveitar para conjugar aqui um bocadinho as duas questões. É uma questão, um tema que é bastante pertinente para esta temática da sustentabilidade, mas que em simultâneo também nos seja útil e nos ajude também a percorrer este caminho de toda a certificação da Sustur. Sintam-se à vontade para partilhar, para trazer também as vossas dúvidas, as vossas questões e também as vossas experiências respeitante a este tema. Eu passaria neste primeiro momento para uma breve apresentação do Robin, que nos fala aqui hoje a partir do Nepal, e daí também hoje estarmos aqui com este horário para conseguirmos sintonizar aqui os fusos horários. Faço aqui esta primeira apresentação em português. Robin, it's not a problem, sorry, because just a little minutes in Portuguese, and then we speak in English for all of them. Sintam-se à vontade para ou levantar a mão ou para utilizar aqui o nosso chat para irem também colocando as vossas questões, e espero que seja também aqui um bom momento para e que seja também útil e interessante para todos vós. Eu passaria então para a apresentação aqui do Robin. Robin nasceu no Reino Unido, onde cresceu, viveu depois grande parte da sua vida na Austrália, até que acaba por se apaixonar pela descoberta das regiões mais remotas do Himalaia, e tem vindo ao longo dos últimos tempos a mapear toda esta região. Passou 10 anos da sua vida a criar a rota da caminhada e aventura de longa distância, a mais alta e a mais difícil dos Himalaias, a que designou o trail do Grande Himalaia, o trail que ainda hoje continua a apoiar e a promover, e acabou por combinar o seu amor pela natureza com a carreira profissional como consultor independente de sustentabilidade e meios de subsistência na área do turismo e agricultura. Tem mais de 16 anos de experiência em desenvolvimento de negócios sustentáveis, onde também tem estado a dar aqui o apoio para a criação e o desenvolvimento de relatórios na área da sustentabilidade e para a apresentação de soluções para o cálculo de carbono. Tem trabalhado e trabalha atualmente ainda em vários projetos, incluindo a criação de uma infraestrutura agrícola sustentável no Nepal e a produção a produção sustentável no turismo no Butão. Treina mais de 170 empresas em todo o mundo, já escreveu 5 livros, faz os mapas do Nepal e do Butão, está neste momento a falar-nos a partir do Nepal, onde se encontra, escreve contos e tem publicado vários trabalhos e pesquisas em todo o mundo. Portanto, a palavra aqui ao Robin. Robin, thanks a lot for being with us. Sorry for being in Portuguese, but now all the presentation is for you. Thanks very much to join with us. Thank you.
Whenever you want me to share, please give me the sharing rights.
Okay, well, thank you, Rita. I mean, hearing about yourself in any language is a bit embarrassing. Namaste, everybody from Nepal. It's hot. It's super dusty this week. Kathmandu has just been announced as the most polluted city on the planet this week. And I can tell you, it is pretty dusty and horrible out there. Asia is currently experiencing its hottest ever heat wave. I don't know whether you've seen it in the news. We are on the receiving end of it here. It was already 28 degrees in Kathmandu in February, which is just incredible. So if you have any clients in Nepal right now, they're probably going to be a bit inconvenienced because lots of the airlines, local flights, have just been cancelled today for the next 2 days. Such is the world of climate change that we live in. So I'm actually going to ask Paolo to drive the presentation because Paolo is going to be a guinea pig for me a little bit later on. And it's always good to be able to have somebody else rather than me using the system. So thank you, Paolo, for volunteering to be the guinea pig. Let's kick off.
Okay, let me see if I can do this right. Can you see the full screen now?
Not full screen. Well, just click on the presentation icon. There you go. That's perfect. Okay, so we're going to talk about CARMACAL. CARMACAL was established back, the original idea was established back in 2004, became a reality in 2007, and is now going through an overhaul. That overhaul happens in 2 phases. First of all was the rebuild of the previous CARMACAL, which we now call CARMACAL Beta. And there will be a second phase of development which is going to significantly expand the scope of carbon calculations for both itineraries and also for your businesses. But right now, we're just going to talk about CARMACAL Beta. You can use CARMACAL Beta free of charge, and there will be, at some point later this year, we will put out what are going to be the plans, how will it work in terms of costing. But right now, all Travel Life registered users, engaged users, can use the CARMACAL Beta free of charge. Next slide, please, Paulo. Okay, so I'm preaching to the converted. You guys already know how much demand there is for information about sustainability and quantifiable information. So even though we know, oh, you're taking me backwards again, Paulo. So even though we know that consumers are interested in sustainability and they would like to make sustainable choices, they're actually really quite confused about how to make those choices. What is relevant information? What is comparable information? How much faith can they place in the information that they're being told? And really, how does that information then relate to the actual experience that they're buying? Because carbon is quite an abstract idea. You know, we can think about carbon in terms of trees and flowers and that kind of stuff, but it's invisible, it's hard to really understand. So what we want to do is try and come up with tools that help you as travel operators be able to explain the decisions that you make, not just in terms of authenticity or the quality of experience, but in terms of the impact it has on the environment, and the impact that it has in terms of carbon. Next slide, please. There we go. So I've just given you briefly 7 sort of key reasons why measuring greenhouse gas emissions. We say carbon, greenhouse gas emissions, so it's kind of interchangeable. Why measuring them is important, especially from a travel perspective. So in November last year, the European Union introduced something called the ESRS, which is the European Sustainability Reporting Standard. At the moment, it only applies to very large companies. But as each year passes, the threshold for the size of the companies decreases to the point at which any entity that turns over more than 750,000 euros is going to have to comply with the ESRS, probably by 2028. At the moment, they haven't actually put out the full timeline of what the size of companies are going to be. But we know the legislation is there. It already applies to large entities. We know they want it to apply to many entities. So the laws are coming. If you're in Switzerland, if you're in America, if you're in England or in Japan, there are similar laws coming as well. So this is not just something happening in Europe, it's a global phenomenon in terms of legislation. Even if you are a micro enterprise, even if you are a very small business, you might have a partner, a business partner that has more than, say, 40 employees. So you are going to fall into their scope 3 reporting. So even micro enterprises should be expecting to get a knock on the door to say, hello, what are your carbon impacts? And the idea of the legislation is that it tries to capture as much as possible in the service industry in Europe. There are over 45 million businesses, and Brussels wants all of them to be reporting. So not only do you have this statutory reporting, you have these scope 3, so the supply chain reporting systems that you're going to have to follow. You also have this increasing awareness among clients and investors wanting to know what is the impact of your products or your services in terms of carbon and the environment. So disclosure and responsibility are becoming a very important aspect of owning a business in any area, but especially a travel business, because all of the world has been hearing about how bad flying on airplanes is for the environment. The point about sustainability, of course, is that you make different choices. And the idea of calculating carbon also helps you make different choices. It will help you reduce your costs as well as your impacts, because maybe there are components of your itinerary that No, I had a travel business for 10 years. The travel business grew very rapidly, and the decisions that I was making at the beginning of the travel business were largely the same decisions I was making when the travel business was much larger. And that wasn't very efficient in some ways, but I was too busy to care. And I know that by sitting down, if I'd have had these tools back then, I would have been able to sit down and really understand what the impacts were of my decisions in itineraries. And then I probably would have made different choices that would have affected my bottom line. It also strengthens your reputation by being open with your carbon footprints and by informing clients, by making sure that you're making a more educated marketplace. You're actually increasing your own reputation as an information service provider. Also, you're joining the fight against global warming, okay? This is the Glasgow Declaration. This is Tourism Declares an Emergency. These are all of the things that you've heard about coming out over the last few years. Well, actually, if you want to sign the Glasgow Declaration, or if you want to join Tourism Declares an Emergency, you need to create a carbon management plan, and you need to be aiming for net zero emissions by 2030. So this is another tool that's going to be able to help you do that. And finally, perhaps I think the most important is that by adopting principles around carbon management and declaring the carbon footprints, you're raising awareness and attracting new talent and new clients to your business because you're becoming a market leader. The vast majority of travel businesses really, they're being dragged tooth and nail into this process. So for you guys as the early adopters and the champions of sustainability, it really does make sense to be able to follow through and start looking at your greenhouse gas emissions. Next slide. Okay, so the CARMACAL purpose. Basically, it's to calculate the carbon or the greenhouse gas emission footprints of a complete holiday and travel package. You can also use it to compare specific elements of travel packages. To do that, we have 25 different transportation modes. We have over 1 million accommodation types, as well as standardized bases for accommodation footprints. So even if we don't know exactly what it is for the particular hotel, we know what it is in average for that standard of hotel in that locality. We have 35 different million flight combinations, and we have 21 specific activity types, all of which have been independently carbon footprinted. I think you're going to find that there's very little that you would be putting into an itinerary that isn't currently covered by the data sets that we already have. But I would really like it to be more. We're talking to Booking.com as well as a number of hotel sustainability certification programs about getting our accommodation level up to 100 million accommodation types. In terms of flights, we're probably going to have a more dynamic way of being able to measure flight emissions and become aligned with an international standard that is still very much being argued about. And I don't know whether you might have heard, but there is something called the Radiative Forcing Index, the RFI. And this is a multiplier effect that you would apply to flight carbon emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, because the aeroplane is already at altitude. So the greenhouse gases don't have to hit the ground up through the different layers of atmosphere where they gradually disintegrate and diffuse over time. They're actually being put into the atmosphere where it's doing the worst possible damage. So RFIs are something that, needless to say, the airlines are not interested in it being out there. Booking.com is not very interested in RFIs, but people like the German government.
Uma coisa rápida. Nós estamos tratando da escala do dia 29.
Catarina, podes...
Sendo num sábado, dá para ter alguns autocarros mais cedo.
Somebody on the phone.
Catarina. A gente consegue fazer 2 excursões de manhã e 2 à tarde.
Oh, Catarina, podes desligar o microfone, por favor?
Pronto, ok. Então este barco que tem 14 autocarros
Paulo, peço desculpa, tu estás como anfitrião, podes desligar tu, por favor, que eu não consigo.
Tem às 10, ou coisa assim. Mas vamos pedir para...
Okay, Paolo, do you want to go to the next slide, please? That happens. I was just in a 2-hour call with Thailand and exactly the same thing happens. We all forget about the microphone. Okay, so CARMACAL, just to give you a little bit more of a background on what it's designed to do. It's for travel operators, it's for destination management organizations as well, because you can consolidate data and be able to get an idea of a footprint for, say, a city or a region or a national park or a destination as a country. It also can be used by travelers who want to be able to calculate their own footprints of their own trips. And I think what we're going to see is that there is some integration here between the different levels. So I've already been asked by some organizations if it's possible to develop CARMACAL as a plugin for their websites so that their own clients can actually calculate the footprints of customized itineraries, and they can get an idea of what their own footprints are going to be. As I mentioned, it was established in 2004 originally. It was launched in 2017, and CARMACAL won the WTO Award for Innovation in 2017. Next slide, please, Paolo. Okay, data. This is always a hot topic. People always ask me, where do you get your numbers from? Okay, there are two basic types of data sets. One are public data sets or published data sets by international bodies. For example, DEFRA in the UK, or IATA, or ICAO. And they create data sets that you have to pay for, and we use those to be able to create the structure of calculating flights and things like that. Then there are research data sets, and this is where educational institutions, mostly universities, go out and do research projects to calculate the carbon footprint of different things. In Thailand, the government there has spent a lot of work working out the carbon footprint of different meals, buffets versus menus, and the amount of waste that can be created and the carbon footprint of waste. We've also worked a lot with the University of Breda in the Netherlands on activities, and they have done a huge amount of work in calculating footprints for things like balloon trips and long tailboat trips and that kind of stuff. Okay. Hotels. Let's just quickly touch on hotels again. Hotel Resilient is one of the partners in this project. We are currently integrating a carbon footprinting system into the Hotel Resilient certification system. So what I want to try and see is that as operators or as hotel owners or as travel businesses, as you go through your reporting for your sustainability criteria for your certification, you're entering information that is relevant to calculating your carbon footprint at the same time, so that you should be able to come away with not just your partner level or your certified level, you should also be able to have a carbon management pathway in front of you. Just as you are developing action plans for your sustainability criteria, you should be developing action plans for your carbon management as well. That's all in the pipeline. That's all coming this year. Okay, next slide, please, Paolo. Okay, now Paolo's going to be the guinea pig. Okay, so let's turn off the PowerPoint and let's go into Travel Life. Does anyone have any questions so far? No, I've baffled you all with science. Fantastic. Okay, Paolo, off we go. Let's get into share your screen again for us because we can't see what you're doing.
Yeah, if anyone has a question, just raise your hand, maybe. And I'm gonna share this in a while. Robin, shall I go to the CARMACAL directly or through the Travel Life?
Go to Travel Life and then go to CARMACAL, just as you would normally, so everyone can see the process.
Okay, okay.
Oh, we have a question. What?
Oh,
Carla?
Yeah. Allow me just to, okay, here we go. Hi, everybody. Hi, Robin. It's a pleasure meeting you. I've heard about you in certain forums about sustainability already, so it's a pleasure being here with you. Thank you very much for taking the time. I know the jet lag is, the time difference is quite challenging. Actually, more than a question, I have actually it's a sharing. Okay, one of our biggest challenges, our particular company, we are a boutique travel agency, and we all deal with customized and bespoke itineraries. Okay, some of our clients are, well, the majority of our clients are positioned in this particular high-end niche. And one of our biggest challenges is sometimes, although we work and we are very demanding with our partners on site, most of our partners are already Travel Live, even partners and certified. And we, of course, we are very aware and very focused on providing certain activities on site, such as, for instance, solar yachts or solar boats, or cycling tours, or electric cars for transfers, etc. One of our biggest challenge is that we realize that although the clients are getting more and more aware of sustainability importance and about the carbon footprint, etc., although they are open and willing to accept our recommendations in what activities and accommodation is concerned, they use their private jet. They don't stop using the private jets. And this is our biggest challenge. I don't know if you went through this kind of challenging situations, but I believe that CARMACAL might be of interest for us in order to calculate the carbon footprint. Nevertheless, I'm pretty sure they will not stop using their private jets. And, you know what I mean? Yeah. So how do we teach them? How do we educate them?
Well, okay. First of all, when it comes to flights, there's quite a big discussion happening at the moment about how carbon for flights should actually be, how it should be associated with one entity or one decision-making person or another. And at the moment, it looks like, and I'm very much in favor of this, that the airlines themselves, the people who actually fly the planes, are the ones who are ultimately responsible for the carbon. It is a decision that an airline will take about a route when it comes to payloads, occupancy, pricing, timing, schedules, and to add into that carbon would actually just be another decision-making criteria on the relative merit of operating a particular route. Now, Lufthansa have been at the forefront of this and saying that airlines themselves should be the ones absorbing the carbon into the ticket price. The question is, how well can airlines be trusted to be transparent about that process? Okay, so in principle, I would say, yes, the airlines, the actual airline operator is the one that should be taking into account the carbon element of whatever service they're providing. The European Union are saying, and the various governments are saying, okay, there's no problem with that, but it needs to be in a transparent process, in a transparent way, with a transparent methodology, and with very clear data sets that are driven by external forces, not by the airlines themselves. And I think that's where we're probably going to end up. So even though I talk about there's 35 different million flight combinations within CARMACAL, I think you're probably going to find that you're not using the international flights that much. It's more for being able to access internal flights within countries, linkages within itineraries, and also ground-based transport and activities. So there is a carbon footprint in whatever it is you're going to be doing. Yes, the international flights are a significant component, but I think that we're heading towards a world where the airlines themselves will be taking responsibility for that. And the client, the traveling public, should really be concentrating on what their carbon footprint is on the ground or during the journey that they're on. And that kind of sits well with a comparison to the converse of your client is not actually in their home country. So if you are sitting in Sweden in winter and you decide to go to Thailand for a holiday, the heating systems, the air conditioning, and everything else that you're consuming while you're in Sweden in winter is going to be off, or at least it's going to be minimized. And then you're going to go to Thailand where, you know, it's a lovely temperature and you don't need the air conditioning. So there is, in fact, a potential for positive footprint holidays. That by not being in your home country and by going somewhere that has a very low footprint or doing a low activity, then you could actually be doing a good thing for the planet in some way. So I think that there's still a lot of discussion about how carbon is going to be perceived, how footprints are going to be understood by clients. I think there's a long journey yet to come in terms of the discussion about flights. But right now, what we're concentrating on really is that land content, about how to design low carbon itineraries, what sort of choices you can make on the ground with clients, and how that then impacts your business. Okay. Well, I hope I've answered your question in a roundabout way, because it was a roundabout question, but yeah, I hope I did.
Thank you so much.
Let's go to CARMACAL.
Okay, now I'm going to share my screen and right, where is it? 1 second, please. Travel life. Here we are.
Okay, so you go into you're in the travel life system.
Let me just go back a second, please.
Oh, that's okay. That's fine, Paulo.
Robin.
Oh, we're okay there. We're okay there. That's all right. I mean, once you sign into the travel life, oh, we've lost your screen again.
Yes. Okay, I'll reshare it again. Sorry for this. Because I think it's somehow important to go from the stage 1. Okay.
As you like.
Here we are. This is the main screen.
Yeah. So you go to suppliers.
Let me just take you out of the way. Okay. You go to suppliers and then CARMACAL.
Yeah, and then okay. So can you don't scroll? Just I'll tell you what to do.
Okay.
First, let me explain. If you are already using or you have been using the old CARMACAL, it's still there. It will still be working for about the next 6 months, but it will be taken off. It will be turned off at some point. And we are encouraging everybody to try to migrate to the new CARMACAL. If you have information that's already been stored in the old CARMACAL, we are still trying to work out how we can extract that information, because when the system was built, it was patched together. And there is no simple way of being able to extract data and bring it into the new CARMACAL. We're working on it. We think we've got a solution. We need to do some testing and see how it works. But please play with the new CARMACAL. So, Paulo, let's click on the new CARMACAL and go and see. Now, normally when you arrive on this page, there's nothing here. Paulo's already created a product in the past, and we're just going to very quickly now create a very simple product so that you get a feel for how easy, I hope, and intuitive, I hope you feel it is. Okay, new product, please, Paulo. Okay, so products and tours are the same thing. First of all, we would give it a name. What do you want to do, Paulo? Where are you going to go for a long weekend?
Nepal? Can it
be
a
weekend in Nepal? Wow, that's going to be a big carbon footprint. Okay, a weekend in Kathmandu. Let's do that.
Okay, package to Kathmandu.
Okay, and you're going to give it a code, which would be your unique company identification code for this product. Okay, and then you give it a short description. Okay, maybe this is a product that you're creating for a special client, or maybe it's something that you want to run as a group, or maybe it's a pilot product that you just want to test. Whatever it is you want to describe. And let's just go for 3 days. So no, you can go down to duration, just adjust that to 3 days. And how many travelers? Just you and your wife, or are you going to take some friends? What are you going to do? Okay, just the two of you. Romantic weekend in Kathmandu. Okay, save. Okay, and then we come to this screen, which is our general management screen. And it's where we can enter details for the different elements of the itinerary. Now, normally, people would begin by deciding on their accommodation. Okay, it's a romantic weekend. You want to go stay somewhere nice. Let's add some accommodation. Click on that. And just scroll down. We have two different options here. We have all these blue buttons at the top of the screen. Just scroll up the screen a tiny bit. Okay, these are all default type of activities or accommodations or transports. So if you just don't know where you're going to be going and you're using CARMACAL to create a generic footprint, you would use these generic buttons. But we do know where we're going to go. So if you can just scroll down to the map and just drag the map across to Kathmandu.
I'm trying to think. Okay.
You can zoom in. You can double click on the map. Okay, just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Right a bit. No, right a bit. That's it. Keep going right. Keep going right. Up a bit. Up a bit. It's north of India. There we go. There's Nepal. So just double click on Nepal. Whoa, whoa, you've gone too far. This is where we get to test everybody's geography knowledge. Okay, so double click on, where are you?
I'm in
No, you're not in Nepal there. No, you need to go left a bit, I think. Where are you?
I'm in Afghanistan. Hold on.
Ah, you're in Afghanistan. You need to go right a bit more right. And a bit down. That's the Tibetan Plateau. There it is. There's Nepal. Kathmandu. There we go. And it's going to tell us that we have 20 locations. 20 is the maximum it will show up. There's more than 20 in there. And now you click on the 20. Or now you see it's already beginning to show where there are other locations that actually have specific footprints. So click on one of those. Let's see what they show.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Hotel Annapurna. There you go. That's a good one. You can choose that one. Now, there is another way of doing this. Maybe you know the name of the hotel. Can I just ask you just to go back briefly, please, Paolo? So scroll down to the bottom. Maybe you know the name of the hotel, and you can actually look specifically. Just scroll back up again where there was the search box. No, down to it's underneath the map, at the bottom of the map.
No, okay, okay.
Search for hotel. There you go. Now you can just type in there Annapurna. A-N-N-A-P-U-R-N-A. P-U-R-N-A. Okay. Now it's showing us on the world map where there are Hotel Annapurnas. Okay. And if we just scroll down the whole page, you see it's listing the Hotel Annapurnas that it's found around the world. So you can actually go and find different hotels. Now, when we have this pink unverified button, that means that we have a carbon value, a carbon footprint value for that premises, but it needs to be independently verified. And this is one of the issues with hotels. They're quite happy to create a carbon footprint value, but they're not so happy to have it verified. So there are not that many fully verified footprints in the system. Slowly, more will come. But we want to flag, we want to show you that really not many of the hotels and the hotel partners that you have are verified footprints. So there we go. We can just select again, Hotel Annapurna. That's it. And now we have our accommodation management screen. We're going to be there for 2 nights. because we have a 3-day itinerary. We're going to fly back home on the last day, and we're going to check in on day 1. That is correct. Okay. Save. Now, let's add some transport. So just add transport. Okay. So again, don't click on any buttons. These are different types of transport option that you can choose to be able to go from A to B. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose a scheduled flight, and then we're going to put in the details of that flight. So click on scheduled flight, Paolo. Okay. And then it gives us this screen which says, where are you going to go from? And if you scroll down a little bit more, you're going to see that there is this search for airports. And let's say you're going to fly from Lisbon. Just put in the search for airport. Yeah, Lisbon. And you just scroll down the page a tiny bit. Okay. Where is Lisbon Airport? Does it have a special name? Or?
No, it should be Lisbon. Okay.
Oh, there we go. So that's from. We're going to go from. You can see on the right-hand side, there is 2 buttons, from. Click on the from. Okay, and then we're going to go back to our search bar, so our search window for airports. And we're going to type in Kathmandu. Now, if you already know the airport codes, you can bypass this and just put in the airport codes into the system. But you actually do need to use the actual airport codes. Kathmandu, no, DHU.
Which one is it?
KATHMANDU.
AATH. No.
No, KATH. You put AA.
TAH.
There you go, Trevor International Airport, KTM.
Okay.
And you're going to say the 2. And what we're going to do the return trip on day 3. Return trip, tick the return trip box. There's a little box right next to it, tick that. And are they, what are you flying? First class, business class, premium economy? Okay, done. Save. Now you've gone to Kathmandu and you're back home again. And let's on day 2. Let's just on day 2 have an activity. Add activity on day 2. And let's just, I don't know, what do you feel like doing? City trip? You want to do a helicopter trip to Everest Base Camp?
I don't think so.
A balloon flight.
Where is the balloon flight? Where is it?
Balloon flight is on left, down, left. That's
okay.
it.
Balloon flight.
Done. Okay. We've got ourselves a very simple itinerary. Okay. We've basically put together save. Okay. So we've put together this itinerary of going to Nepal for a few days and having a balloon flight. Okay. It's been the dream trip of your life. What we want to do now is make a report for the carbon footprint of this trip. So click on Make Report. Carla, I think we have your microphone on.
Just switch it off.
So with the Generate Report, again, you might be preparing this as a test to see what the impact is of some of your choices. So we're going to add a description to say, this is first choice for client X. Okay, and we're going to freeze the trip. So it means that nobody else can come along and play with it while we're generating the report. Okay, now we're going to scroll down, and here is our carbon footprint report. no surprise that we have a big day 1 and day 3 footprint for our international flights. We have an activity, balloon flights, you know, balloon flights actually generate a lot of carbon. And we have a tiny footprint for the hotel, because the hotel actually is very carbon sensitive. We have this graphic, which then helps break it down into something a little bit more digestible for people. We know we have 18 tons of carbon. To give you an idea, 2.5 tons of carbon is the equivalent of a fully grown Norwegian pine tree. So a 30-meter tall tree represents 2.5 tons of carbon. So, Paolo, your weekend in Kathmandu is almost 1 tree. You better go and plant it right now. You can't go until it's fully grown, okay? So then we also have our per day footprint, and we have the breakdown of the individual elements of the footprint as well. We want you can download this report, okay? You can be able to save that as a PDF. One of the things that's been requested is that companies want to be able to add their logo to the reports. So that's something that's going to be happening quite soon.
Where do we actually download this?
That's happening this week. They're putting in the download button this week.
Okay.
So yeah. Right now you could just do a screenshot, same thing. Yeah, it would be easy enough. But yeah, we want you to be able to download it as a PDF and have all of the information. Because one of the things we want to add to the download is your sources of information for calculating these footprints. So that if somebody says to you, okay, that's nice, but where do you get this information from? You don't just say from CARMACAL, you actually have some reference source material to be able to back up the claims. Okay, so these reports are things that you can obviously generate for specific activities. You could generate for your company over the course of a year. How many packs do you have doing a particular trip? You could aggregate those and have some idea. Okay, we have a quick question from Eduardo.
What is this download label, please?
Oh, there it is, download label, there it is. Look at that. I wasn't even looking for it, there it is. Go for it, Eduardo.
Hello, everyone. Just in the meanwhile, while we see this download, just a question, Robin, thanks again for your explanations. We are a destination management company. So my question is, I mean, when we organize a trip, like a group or our own circuits, should, if we do this,
oh, we're getting some interruption.
Having some echo. If you do this footprint report, should we include the flights? I mean, as a DMC, normally when we prepare a group, we do not include flights on our offer. So the flights are on the client side. So when we calculate, I mean, if we have a group from, for instance, from Germany, of course, they are coming by flight, but it's not organized by us. So when I'm preparing our proposal, should I include the flight or not?
Well, this is what I was saying earlier. To me, this is about what are you responsible for. If you are not responsible for it, you should not be including it.
Yeah.
And you might have clients that say, hey, look, I want to go and have 2 days to myself to do what I want to do. Okay. Then I'm not going to be including that in the carbon footprint because I'm not responsible for it.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we're going with carbon and with sustainability reporting in general. And this is a fundamental principle of the ESRS, that you should only be assessing things for which you have financial control or management control of what is happening. If you don't have that, then how on earth can you be held responsible for it?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
It makes sense. Yeah. Thanks, Robin.
So in terms of travel life reporting and in terms of sustainability reporting, these reports, okay, they're useful for your business, useful for client management, but they're also useful in your sustainability reporting as well. There are 10 different criteria within the travel life system that this sort of carbon calculations have an impact. The very first one is, of course, your sustainability policy. How many of you actually have a carbon management plan as part of your sustainability policy? I'm an auditor for companies, and I very rarely see carbon mentioned in a sustainability policy. So I think that's something that if you want to start using this, begin with that, because if you want to be a net zero business, if you want to sign the Glasgow Agreement, if you want to sign the Tourism Declares an Emergency Declaration, then you need to incorporate that into your policies of your organization. Maybe have a separate carbon management policy or incorporate it with your sustainability. Secondly, there's collaborations. So if you are going to join Glasgow, sign the Glasgow Agreement and Tourism Declares, that is part as a legitimate collaboration to include in your reporting. You then have two other areas, which are the carbon offset for your office and business travel. Now, at the moment, we do not have carbon offsetting for offices, including in CARMACAL. It will be in CARMACAL too. So the energy use of your office, the paper use of your office, et cetera, you'll be able to footprint your own operations. Separately from that, you will also be able to footprint your business travel. So for when you go to trade shows or for when you go to see clients. Thirdly, there is your international travel. Now, if you're not responsible for international flights, you don't have to worry about it. But if you are responsible for international flights, you do need to be reporting them separately within the Travel Life system. And then you have your client information. So do you inform clients about more sustainable choices and lower carbon choices? Are you integrating offsetting? Are you integrating carbon management into the pricing of your tickets, into your packages? So if you are actually calculating the footprint for something and it comes out to be 500 kilos of carbon, well, in the international market for offsetting, 1 ton, 1,000 kilos of carbon currently costs around $20, okay, in the international offsetting market. So you could just put $10 on the price of your package and you have a carbon neutral package per person. So are you communicating that? Are you building in the carbon value into the price of your packages? And if you're not, are you providing clients with a legitimate piece of information for them to be able to go and source their own carbon management offsetting system? Okay, so they're the 10 different criteria in the Travel Life platform that all have some form of connection to carbon calculations and what we've been talking about. Paolo, you got a question?
I do indeed. As a matter of fact, two questions. I'll start by the last, which is the offset. And carbon offset is something that it really triggers my mind, and not only my mind, but a lot of people's minds, I suppose. We actually we are looking to find a good option for a supplier of carbon offset. There is none in Portugal, and none which is accredited. Okay.
May I just interrupt you? Sure. Travel Life just signed a memorandum of understanding with an organization called South Pole. South Pole, a global offsetting organization based in Zurich. And you will get, all Travel Life members will get preferential pricing, discounting on their offsetting.
I know that, but this is not the place to discuss it. But I mean, there are some questions about South Pole going on right now. There are others. Atmosphere, for instance, the German one, and whom I met very recently. They seem to be the optimum choice. Although their cost for the carbon ton is around 27 euros right now, but they are good anyway. But the thing is that there are currently no Portuguese accredited carbon offset companies or systems or organizations. And a lot of people say, okay, I would prefer to offset in Portugal for a Portuguese project instead of doing for an international project. And I tend to explain what I've been explaining to is that when you're talking about carbon offset, it doesn't matter whether you are sponsoring a project in Portugal or in Bhutan, because the atmosphere is only one, and obviously that the end result is going to be the same. Still, people like to work closer to home, so to speak, we are still trying to find. And I just want you to either validate or not the theme of the fact that people like to work with closer projects and within their countries or whatever, whether that makes a difference or not. The second question has to do with the calculations. We know we have a lot of agencies, and some of them here, and I'll ask them, maybe Anna Avelar from Best Travel, to talk a bit about it, but they are willing to offer an option for their clients because they cannot calculate every single package they do, because they do millions of packages of different packages, and they would need not only one but a battalion of people calculating each time. So they would rather have an option where people could calculate themselves, and the idea is to find out if and how can that be done. And if I got it wrong, Anna, please correct me, but let's first go to the first question, and then you can speak afterwards, okay?
Okay. Your first question is something I tend to get on my soapbox a little bit about. To me, carbon, the perfect analogy is waste, okay? In a perfect world, the best way of managing waste is by not having waste. Okay, does that make sense? So if we could minimize our carbon footprints, we wouldn't have to worry about offsetting, because there'd be no carbon footprint to offset. And I've just spent 2 hours in a call with the Thailand government. They want to create zero carbon packages in Thailand, and they have a bunch of different ways that they're proposing to do that. And I think that is fantastic. So if you can actually create packages that are very close to zero carbon, then you're actually solving the problem for the client in the first place. We do have a lot of different Travel Life members around the world, and they are all very interested in this localization of offsetting. I could not agree with you more. People in Bhutan are really, really, really unhappy with the fact that people that go to Bhutan are offsetting their trip in Venezuela, and that doesn't make any sense to them. So to be able to localize offsetting, yes, I think that's a really important thing to do. It's going to take time, because to set up offsetting programs is in fact incredibly expensive. To get an international gold certified offsetting project off the ground, you're investing 70,000, 80,000 euros just in having it audited to say that it's a fully certified offsetting project. It's incredible. So you can only really deal with very large scale projects at the moment, and that's really a barrier to entry for localized projects. So one of the things I think we're going to see is that countries are going to want to create their own systems, and that's exactly what we've done in Thailand. We now have 100 offsetting projects in Thailand for Thai nationals to be able to use, and Thai businesses to use for localized offsetting. So if this is something that you think there is a genuine demand for in Portugal, I would turn around to the Department of Tourism in Portugal and say, okay, let's start working out how we can create offsetting projects in Portugal for Portuguese nationals, for Portuguese businesses to be able to access, because I think that's the only way you can control it. If you open it up to the international market, one big player, one petrochemical company can come along and just buy all your offsets in a moment, and you're gone. So you need to be able to preserve that localized nature of an offsetting market to be able to benefit the people that need it most, who are the local community and the local business owners. So yes, I agree with you completely. Localization is a really big issue. There is no easy solution to it right now. I think the best thing you can do is to minimize your footprint in the first place, and then try to come up with some way of managing that footprint, or for your client to manage that footprint going forward. Secondly, okay, being able to share the work of creating carbon footprints on products. At the moment, to develop CARMACAL, we've made an API. So a way of being able to test, it's like an independent API, so we can test and debug different features and functionality within the system. And we're kind of confident now that the API is quite stable, because even creating the API in the first place, it kept not working. Now it works, and there is a potential to be able to test that API with different businesses. And there are two different scenarios as I see it right now, and you guys might have another one. There are itinerary building software packages that companies use to be able to design, put together components that then packages it as a nice PDF and sends it out to the client. Then there are booking system packages where you're going to take that booking and turn it into a revenue stream within your business. And some companies have come to us and said that they want to be able to integrate an API with their itinerary building software. And some have said they want to integrate it with their financial software because they actually want to have a cost of carbon calculated within their business related to their company accounts. Okay, so they're two different scenarios. And they require two very different approaches in terms of creating an API. At the moment, I'm open to any suggestions or volunteers of organizations to say, okay, yes, we would really like to be able to develop an API. Let's see if we can go back to the CARMACAL developers and work out, does this actually fit with their scope? I have a definition of the type of environment that we need to have to be able to get an API moving quickly. If any of you are interested in doing that, then please get in touch and we'll try and set up a meeting with the developers and we can work out exactly what we need to do, whether it's even possible. The two companies we've already spoken to use a software package called Sitecore, and Sitecore is not compatible to be able to integrate an API with. The type of software and background that they use, the platform that they use, is not going to work. So then we need to sit down and go back to the drawing board a little bit, and how can we develop relationships with booking and itinerary management service providers where we can integrate APIs. That's another question that we need to face. We want this to be as easy as possible for you. Putting the API into a website is a completely different thing. That's easy. So if you want to have something on your website that says, do you want to calculate your own travel footprint for your tour? Yeah, we just plug in the CARMACAL API. That's very straightforward. And people can actually just use the current API that you would be using to calculate a footprint.
Robin, I don't know whether Anna, I know that she's got to leave now. I don't know if you have 30 seconds, Anna, to explain what were your original plans, and then we can follow up this conversation after the meeting in a different time, okay?
Oh, okay, so in a nutshell, because I really have to leave and I'm sorry, because it was very interesting hearing you, Robin. Our concerns are the following. Number one, we sell packages, most of them made by tour operators, meaning that we create some packages, but this is not our core. So, and this process you've shown, it takes time to measure all packages. So it would add more time to the agents to make a proposal to the customers, and this is one of our strugglers. The other point is relating B2C, and this API integration will be interesting, but this will only cover those dynamic packages that we have in B2C, not the packages we have from tour operators, I guess. So maybe we can explore this, how the API can be adapted to our website and our needs.
Okay. Okay, very quickly on the B2B. Yeah, I know lots and lots of companies have got partners that develop products, your third-party products, third-party providers, whatever. There will be an import-export option on CARMACAL too. So you'll be able to mass calculate for itineraries. You'll be able to just do file dumps into CARMACAL and it will give you your carbon reporting. So all you'll have to do is get your partners to actually put the information in the correct columns in an Excel spreadsheet, that save it as a CSV file, or we'll convert it into a CSV file, and you'll be able to import it straight into CARMACAL. And your partners should be able to do that with pre-formatted spreadsheets. Okay, so hopefully that will take a lot of the pain and agony. At the moment, CARMACAL has been designed thinking of someone trying to design an itinerary. So they're going through the decision-making process of, do I do this or do I do that? And how do we do this and how do we do that? And that was the paradigm that was used back in 2017. Now we know that actually you already have all of the components of your different itineraries organized, or your partners are organizing them. So what you need to do is bulk process to be able to create the values. And then if there is something, you'll have your own benchmarks, and something comes in and you go, whoa, this is an enormous footprint. What's going on there? You can go back to them and question. For the B2C, yeah, if you're interested, let's have a chat.
Okay, we will, but I'm not convinced with regard to third-party packages. I think the way will be to convince them to calculate themselves and share this information with us. That is the process. Otherwise, we have a lot of combinations of hotel options, transfer options, activities options, and so on, flight options. So I don't think this, for me in my head, it's not clear that this is a straightforward process.
Yeah, and
for now. So I would like to share or to ask for someone who works in a travel agency who can relate with us in terms of my profile, and ask them how they do it. As I see it right now, and with the tools we have right now, it's time consuming and it's not straightforward. And right now, who works on the front office of a travel agency knows that this is a nightmare of period of sending proposals to customers, and a lot of proposals. So this would bring an extra time to the teams, that it's difficult to convince them that this is important. So our job is to have an option, to find a straightforward way of doing it, so they can't deny doing it.
Yeah,
but so far I'm not convinced.
To have 5,500 products in the CARMACAL system. We have clients with 2,000, 3,000 products in the CARMACAL system. Doing bulk uploads of products is the only way you're going to be able to solve that problem. And if you cannot motivate your partners, because you're going to have scope 3 obligations under the ESRS, you're going to have to change partners. That's the reality of the future of the ESRS. The European Union is forcing everyone to turn around and say, who are you choosing to do business with? And if you cannot push responsibility back down your upstream and downstream operations, then maybe you shouldn't be doing business with them. That's what the ESRS is saying. You read the legislation and they're like, no, we don't care. You've got to do it. Well, okay, fair enough. Let's try and find a solution to make it happen.
Yeah, maybe in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years time, but not now.
2028.
That's the reality. Nobody sends this information, or no one shares this information right now. So, and that's just our concern. So,
But I work with Travel Life in many countries. I have 170 companies who are all travel businesses, and they are all calculating their footprints using CARMACAL. So there are companies out there. They're just not the companies maybe that you're working with, but there are companies out there.
yeah.
And we've got one here in this room, Luzanova, which is our first Travel Life partner, and they are working for the certification. So let's hope that we can all persuade Hugo to persuade his bosses to start calculating their carbon footprint for every single package they sell. And I do believe that the moment you've got one tour operator working B2B and preparing packages who is writing hard, very hard, I know, but we gotta try. But others will follow. But Eduardo, you have your hand up.
Yeah, hello. Just to say, I mean, I agree with Ana Balada. I mean, it will not be in the next coming months for sure. It will take some time, and as Robin said also. But of course, as also Robin said, it has to be the tour operator. I mean, if we're talking about close package like 7 days Mexico, your tour operator will have to give you the footprint for sure, and then you load it as a CSV file to your system with the code, and then you just put max 7, and then you get the footprint of that package for that tour operator. It will be a reality in the next coming years for sure. I mean, sooner than later, as we have a deadline of 28, I think that will be the path for this carbon issue. One other thing, I mean, as Anna said, also a different thing is like dynamic. I mean, okay, I'm going to Mexico, but I'm doing this and this excursion. Well, that's difficult. Despite that, people can buy the activities on the destination, but that's a different thing. If they buy it pre-hand, well, perhaps you have to do some manual work. And my question was regarding the API, as Robin said. I mean, one thing is to have the plugin on of the CARMACAL plugin on our website, okay, and that will give us that manual work as Robin just instruct us. Another thing is to have an API connected to our system, which automatically does the footprint. So that's different things. That requires much more technology work behind, and I think that will be a little bit more difficult. One thing is to have the plugin for the clients that at home they can calculate their footprint. Another thing is to have a connectivity to our booking system or to our financial system. So that's a completely, I think that will be a next step.
Eduardo, it's already happening. The German Tourism Association have already put out a call for development of flight and ground component calculation tools that can be used as plugins within booking systems, as well as an aggregating API, so that you can actually look or live time. What are my options here for different transportation routes? The proposals are being drafted. The deadline is the end of this month for all submissions to come up with the solutions, and they want them made by the end of the year. So I think that there is a screaming sense of urgency at the moment across the European travel scene. And I think that you'll be very surprised at how quickly some of these things are manifest. And it was mentioned earlier about atmosphere. What the German Travel Association wants to do is really raise the bar on the calculation systems themselves to be a lot more extensive and accurate than maybe some of the ones that are currently available on the market. And perhaps the most important part of that is the radiative forcing index, that most organizations around the world are happy with a factor of 2.2 to 2.5. The Germans want 3. So basically, Germany wants to triple the carbon footprints of anything that flies in the sky. And they're going to say that's the standard, non-negotiable.
Yeah.
So I think that not being responsible for international flights is probably a good idea as a travel agent right now.
Just a question, Robin. But the idea from the Germans are to include that on the price, to include the offset of this carbon emission on the price of the package, or to give the possibility for the clients to pay their carbon emissions?
No, this is about standardizing the carbon calculations and making it more accessible so they can be embedded into accounts programs and itinerary building programs. There are so many types of software that organizations use that it is impossible to be able to come up with a solution for each individual one. So this is actually coming up with specific APIs that are generic and can just be dropped into systems. It's a coding nightmare, absolutely, but they've just put out the tenders for it, and it will be done by the end of the year.
Adding to that, I had the question before whether GDSs like Travelport or Amadeus, how can they get involved in this process? Have any idea, Robin?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I think any organization needs to do is decide what its agenda is regarding carbon management, because what we're talking about specific details of how you could go about calculating or integrating carbon tools into your system. But a lot of the conversations I have seem a little ad hoc when it comes to talking to organizations. They don't really have a clear idea of what it is they're trying to do or how they would like it to work. And that's because they don't necessarily have an overarching policy on we're going to be net zero by 2030 or whatever it's going to be. We want to develop net zero products by 2028, whatever it's going to be, and actually have some nice clear targets, because then you're probably going to have to do a little bit of thinking about how you do your own internal administration systems of your business. It's probably going to raise some questions about how the software you use, the decisions that you make, who is responsible for those decisions. If you're feeding a lot of stuff out to partners, wow, who are those partners going to be? How proactive are they going to be about adopting new technologies and learning new ways of doing things? So, I mean, there's really, and from a strategic point of level for an organization, carbon management is very rapidly becoming a force behind changing the way that you do your internal business.
But I understand that. But most airlines, for instance, these days are offering information about their carbon emissions. And they're even offering the possibility for the travelers to compensate those in their websites, and I guess for agencies that works the same thing. And I wonder if this is not gonna, that in the end of the day, that you have to treat these things separately. Can you trust airlines? And no one here usually trusts airlines a lot. So. But they still are offering you, let's say, okay, you fly on a business trip, you go to New York and back, and they say, okay, this is your carbon footprint, and you can compensate here, and they give you a button, and you pay, and you feel great about yourself that you are paying an airline to deal with your carbon emission.
Yeah, and the ESRS and what the German Travel Association want to do is to have a robust international standard that is verifiable. And that means independent third-party verification of their claims. Now, that's, I think, the only way we're going to be able to solve this, because I look at carbon calculation tools around the world, and there are some really seriously dodgy carbon calculation tools. And organizations for the last few years that have been claiming net zero basically go out into the marketplace, find the tool that gives them the lowest number, then goes off and finds the lowest offsetting program to be able to pay it out. They get long-term agreements. Okay, we'll sign up for the next 5 years. They get discounts on the carbon offsetting. I mean, this is about the planet we're talking about. And I think the European Union and the German Travel Association have decided to take a much, much harder line. Let's see how hard it ends up at the end of the day. But the reason why they're taking that hard line is because of the lack of robustness and verification of systems that's out there. The good thing about CARMACAL is that it's open source. You know, we're open with all the information, all the data sets, whatever it is you want to know, we're happy to share it. No other carbon calculation tool does that, and that's why the offsetters accept CARMACAL as being a legitimate way of calculating carbon, because we tell them exactly how we do it, and they're happy about that.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Everyone seems to be fully informed. Rita, it's you.
I hope I've covered all the points. I hope I've explained why it's important, how you can do it. And it's the beginning, guys. This is the beginning. This is step one. The whole idea of CARMACAL 2 is to provide a much more extensive tool that, as I said, you can use to actually footprint your own business operations, separate your business travel from your client travel, actually come up with a better way of managing carbon. So right now, CARMACAL 1 is very much the first step on the ladder of going through this carbon management system. But like with anything, as you would know, it really begins with having a clear idea of what you want to achieve and what your goals are as an organization. Because if you don't know that, then you're going to be swimming all over the place.
It's always in progress.
It's working.
Add to that all of the companies here, or not all of them, but the majority of the people in this meeting are trying to get their certification with TravelF. So they feel also some pressure about these things. I know that there are ways to go around these questions, and a plan to a carbon management plan is something that you can implement even before CARMACAL 2 comes up. But you have an idea, a timing for the new calculator to be there?
Well, I mean, CARMACAL is already there. You can already use CARMACAL 1. CARMACAL 2, on the 3rd of May, I sit down with the developers and we spend a very long meeting bashing about priorities and costs and timelines. And I think what we're going to see is perhaps a 3-phase development over the course of this year. Some of the easier things to do will be done by September. Some of the less easy things by November, and maybe some of the really hard things will be in the new year, to be perfectly honest. There's some questions that we have about how to integrate with other carbon management systems that are going to take a bit of time to work out. This German government system that's being proposed, we want to try and have a link with it so that we can use CARMACAL again as a stepping stone. The German system is horrendously complicated, what they're proposing. You're going to need to go off and do a degree in carbon management to understand how to use the system. So I would like to see CARMACAL, maybe CARMACAL 1 remaining as step 1. CARMACAL 2 is a natural pathway that you then go up to be able to say, okay, now I want to start doing this. And then maybe we have the German or a pan-European system, which is compliant with full ESRS and the greenhouse gas protocol, which is another level of complexity. So I think that, again, don't feel overwhelmed right now. I would engage with CARMACAL as it is, use it, play with it, get a feel for it, see what sort of impact some of the elements of your itineraries have, and then start getting an idea of what sort of questions are you going to start having to come up with. What sort of transportation options? How much of a priority is moving to hybrid vehicles with your transport providers? That depends on how much road transport that you have in your itineraries. How important is it to emphasize train options for shorter distances to be able to connect places rather than flights? Depends on the type of products that you create. What sort of messaging and communication you're going to have with clients about value addition activities like balloon trips or helicopter trips or whatever it is? Are these things that you're going to turn around and say, poof, we're going to cut it, we're going to do something else, we're going to come up with cycle trips instead of balloon trips or whatever? You know, there's a lot of thinking that goes into itineraries and designing the right sort of experience at the moment for your clients. And maybe some of those things you're going to start putting question marks against. And this is the time to get a feel for that process, to get a feel for what the big emissions are going to be.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but just questions that come up to my mind. I won't take much longer. But one, ClimaLink, is that something that you are aware of? How does it fit with the
ClimaLink is the German Tourism Association call for proposal.
Yeah. Okay. So you're already saying that it seems to be rather complex.
Yes.
Okay, I watched the presentation from them recently, and I found it interesting. They work on this variable 1, 2, 3. They will be working with the top, I think. So that because they are aiming not only to measure the carbon emissions, but all of the greenhouse gases emissions. So they multiply the result by 3, I think.
Yeah, but also actually, this is what most carbon calculation tools do. They're actually measuring greenhouse gas emissions. They're not just measuring carbon dioxide. So yeah. There's a bit of confusion in the marketplace where people use the terms carbon and greenhouse gases interchangeably, and often in a way that's designed to cause confusion, which is why sometimes when you look at some calculation engines, the numbers don't sometimes make sense. Yes, to be absolutely correct, this is following the greenhouse gas protocol. It covers nitrogen monoxide, sulfur dioxide, all of the greenhouse gases. It covers multiple emission types. It creates multiple generation types. It includes just about everything that you could think it would include, with the exception of one thing, which I was really surprised that it doesn't include, and that is air biofuels. So ClimaLink doesn't want to currently take into account airlines that are already shifting towards biofuels.
Yeah, because they don't believe that biofuels will be the future. Everyone is betting on hydrogen, I suppose. But let's see, that will be an interesting topic. One final thing is there. We were talking earlier about the possibility of doing some tests with the APIs, and I know that Ana Vlara, who just left, has an interest on that, maybe, and I guess that is. That we can find a couple of others. Is this still on? Can we keep on that discussion?
I mean, communicate within yourselves who would be interested. Maybe you can become the focal point for that, Paulo. Organizations, anyone that is interested in doing any testing to see how things work. I would suggest first you play with CARMACAL yourself. And then if you come away from it and think, oh yeah, I think that there is something we could do here. Sure, perhaps go to Paulo and then consolidate the list so that then we can have a bit of a group call with the developer guys.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I'll try. Yeah. I'll try to organize that. Thank you very much. Rita.
So I think if it's not more questions, thanks a lot, Robin, for your interesting presentation and for your time to join with us. Muito obrigado a todos também pela vossa presença e pelos vossos contributos. Em breve irei também disponibilizar as datas da nossa próxima reunião. Desta vez será dedicada à questão dos direitos humanos. E que acaba também por se interligar também aqui a um dos pontos da certificação da Sustur, e portanto em breve também irão receber aqui mais detalhes, mas resta-me então agora agradecer muito a vossa presença e a vossa contribuição, e sintam-se à vontade para ir colocando também, podem enviar questões posteriormente por e-mail, que procuraremos também encaminhar ao Robin, e portanto, obrigada, thanks so much, Robin, have a nice work, thank you very much.
And please feel free to, I'll just put my email in the chat.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, see you.
See you. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Okay, let me just do this. This is my personal email. There we go, in the chat.
Okay. Yes, here you are.
And there's the Travel Life email as well that you can catch me on as well. And there's a CARMACAL email as well. But really, if you need anything, then my Gmail is probably the most reliable one.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks.